What's up, guys? Before we get started today, I just want to remind everybody, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to ER Comedy. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to me, and I'm appreciative for everybody who's ever done one of those things. Before we get today's episode started, I want to read off, I got a couple upcoming comedy dates, and November 9th, I will be in Oh, it was perfect until that moment. I will be in Clarksville, Tennessee on November 9th. So, guys, make sure you come out. It should be a lot of fun. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Best Podcast. This is your host, Eric Rustler. Joining me this week is Scott James. We sat down and had a great 3-hour conversation, but I whittled it down. I think we're going to put it out in 2 parts. Now, he does plug some upcoming shows that we are both going to be on. And you might think to yourself, but Eric, those dates have already passed. They have. Unfortunately, those shows got canceled, so I kind of reordered things, and now you're getting the Scott James experience. So whenever he mentions those shows, well, just know that they would have been fantastic. But anyway, we had a great time. We talked for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. So enjoy Scott James Part 1.
Oh, Jesus. Whoa. Ah.
Like a dog on the 4th of July.
I was sleeping.
I don't like clapping.
It's more the alligator motion you did. I don't like that one bit. It takes me back to a nightmare I had recently.
A very traumatic Florida football game. University of Florida football game.
Nah, crocodiles in general just...
Yeah.
I don't like it, man. It's the death roll thing. I could totally...
Oh, yeah.
Look, if I was going to be attacked by a wild animal, if I had my... if I had my pick, it's going to be one that's going to kill you immediately, as opposed to like an alligator that's like, I just drag him into the water, roll him around.
Oh, yeah. I would always
drown
go
him,
with,
rip his arm off.
Like a big cat or whatever, because they kill you and then they drag you off and eat you and whatever.
Which is that's the gentlemanly way to handle business.
Of course. Of course.
Get you dead first.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to sleep.
Yeah. Shh.
And then we'll eat later.
I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna drag you up a tree so the hyenas don't get you.
Yeah. That's what I respect.
Yeah.
Because I want whatever kills me, I want them to get the benefit of eating. I don't want scavengers to come and steal me.
Yeah, you don't want a bunch of carrion birds. You don't want to dehydrate and then just have your last thing is like, the birds circling.
No. You're just there. They're picking out your liver or whatever. No. I would hate for a bear. I don't want a bear to get me because they don't kill you. They'll just hold you down and eat you.
Yeah, they just start eating.
Yeah, that and like wolves, they're just like, hey, you'll die, but we're just gonna start.
Yeah, I always assume that bears do that because they're like, that's how little a threat you are to them physically. They're just like, I can just start eating and do your thing. I'm just so big, it doesn't even register to me as a struggle.
My daughter just recently got Instagram. We were like, you're in high school
how
now.
High school.
Yeah, she's 15. She's about to be 16.
Does she give a fuck? Because I talk to my son all the time about whatever social media stuff, and he's like, no, Facebook is like that. Yeah. His generation is like, that's old people shit.
Right. She didn't want. She got a Facebook, but she's like, I don't care about it. Nobody cares about it, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But Instagram is what she wanted. And I'm like, all right, all of her friends have it. Fine. But then I realized, like, oh, now I can send you things, And she went through this phase this summer where she thought bears were the cutest thing in the world.
Oh, no. Eric, no, you didn't.
So I sent her a video of a guy who had like a box of donuts and he was like tossing them at a grizzly. And the grizzly ate like 3 donuts and then was like, and the video ends with it lunging at the guy.
Yeah.
And I was like...
That's how it should end, by the way.
Exactly. And I was just like, and this is why we don't feed bears. And this is why you leave them alone. Because they don't care. They will eat you. And She was like, "Oh, not. I'm sure not all of them are mean." I was like, "Yes, all of them. All of them are mean."
It's not that they're. It's not mean. It's just their. It's in their nature.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very much like. It's like having a pet chimp, where it's like at some point they're going to be like, everybody's a threat, and it isn't. They're not out of line. They're not wrong for thinking that way. And they also, I don't think that they just look at you as a different primate. They're like, who the fuck is this trying to like
and you don't
put
know,
a hat on me?
You don't know their social faux pas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know what sets them off.
Yeah, that is one of the real interesting things. Like, if you watch like Jane Goodall stuff, or like I was, so my kid and I used to watch this when he was little. Like before I took him to school, we would wait. He used to have like, this is funny. We can talk about this too. I used to say he has marine hours.
Okay.
Because he would wake up at like 5 a.m. just to wake up and get a start on his day. Crazy. Mm-hmm. But I would, I was always taking him to school or taking him to his bus stop or whatever. And this is elementary school still. And we would wake up and at like 5:30 in the morning on the Animal Planet was a show called Orangutan Island.
Oh,
and it's the cutest thing I'd ever seen. And I learned a lot about orangutans. They're definitely my favorite of the great apes. Because they're just, I don't know, man. They're cool. They're relaxed. They don't get super hyped up about things. And they're pretty like in the wild, I guess, they're pretty isolated. Like they just kind of make their little tree fort. They make a little nest in the trees. Mm-hmm. They don't mingle a whole lot. But this is like, their natural habitat had been destroyed. So it's like this school where they're like teaching them to be independent in the forest and everything. But they're also like, but they're also like kind of, and it's weird seeing them like socialize and have certain like, certain things they do where it's just fucking adorable. They make friends, they make enemies.
I'm picturing like it's like a combination of Orangutan Island and like Love on the Spectrum a little bit, where it's like they're teaching them to be independent, but like they show up in a van,
but there's only
full
so
of
much
orangutans,
you can do.
like outside of Trader Joe's, and they give them a shopping list, and they're like, "All right, you have to go buy groceries for yourself," and it's just like an orangutan looking for coffee in an aisle, like, "Oh, okay, this one,"
Yeah,
just trying to be independent and trying to be like, "Okay, now I have to do dishes and stuff." Oh, real quick before we get going, you want to plug your social media and any upcoming shows you got going on?
I do. Yeah. Speaking of social media, I'm yeah. I'll tell you what. We'll plug shows. I got a bunch of them coming up.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I do things.
That's better to me than when sometimes I'm like, "Hey, do you guys want to plug some shows coming up?" And they're like, "I don't have any shows."
I'll be at the open mic at the Funny Bone on every Tuesday.
And I have to
from here until I
pretend you have shows. Right.
It's actually, it bugs me. Here's why I'll get to the plugs. I'll do what you told me to do. I will do that. I also I was just having this conversation with somebody. Dude, I'm 43 and I'm trying to you need to be more interactive on social media, plug shows, try to make, try to engage or whatever. I've never felt like more of a phony and more of I feel like a dude trying to infiltrate young people things. Uh-huh. I feel like it's 21 Jump Street and I'm going to get found out any day now. But yeah, I'm actually trying to post in stories and reels and stuff like that. And I'm so bad at it that I went through to look at all right, does this look stupid or does it look whatever? And I realized I guess I'm I share to reels. I guess I made this thing and you share it to reels and you go on over to Instagram and you're like, yes, share to my stories. And it just goes back and forth. So you're posting the same thing two or three times. So now it's you go from I should make a little more effort to post about shows and put some effort into how it looks. Don't just be like, hey, I got this show coming up. See you there, nerds.
Yeah.
I actually have kind of a poster for it. I've gone from that to I posted the same thing 4 or 5 times. In the 30 minutes I was putting effort into it.
It's so confusing. I went to school to learn how camera angles and sound and lighting and stuff like that. And I wish that I would have gone to school for social media.
Yeah.
Because that would have been I loved the school and I loved learning all this stuff. It was very interesting to me. but social media would have been so much more beneficial to learn.
Sure. It's also, dude, it's
I
also one of
hate
those things where it's like, and again, you're trying to like, it's just, every now and then you'll catch somebody
Yeah.
doing like weird influencer shit, and like,
I can't stand it.
it bothers me so bad. So the fact that I'm like, I should try to be like that person more. But
Yeah, they're on a motion sensor. That's why I have the other lights.
we'll get you back up on your feet. Don't worry. I know
Yeah,
the lights
yeah,
are going
yeah.
out around here. You spent all your money on gold ass microphones.
It's been a rough month, Scott. I don't know what to tell
Hey,
you.
it's been a rough. Hey, times are tough everywhere, brother. You speaking to that?
Yeah. I do that too. If you could see every video I've ever posted of me being like, "What's up, guys? I'll be in Evansville, Indiana for Comic Invasion, September, whatever," like that. Every video that, as soon as it cuts off, it ends with me going, "That's stupid. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm doing this." And then I like look around, like, is anybody watching me do this?
Yeah.
Like, I've had people say, like, "Oh, you're in Ballpark Village. Why don't you record one around Busch Stadium?" I'm like, "No, there's people there." Are you
Yeah,
kidding?
right. I don't want people knowing I'm caring.
I'm in the corner by a brick wall, and I'm like, "Hey, if you guys are interested, I got a show." Blah blah blah. I feel like a drug dealer, where I'm like, "Hey, come over here. I got shows. I got jokes."
I've never, dude. I'm so guilty of it. Anytime I see somebody, especially like a St. Louis comic that I've known as an open micer, like, what, you put an effort in? God, what a sellout!
Ew,
but
he's
they're doing the
trying.
things.
Yeah.
They're. I mean, especially if it is like, and I'm 100% sure, like local comics or even like my friends are like, oh, you got
Well, the other
ooh, you got a show coming up.
the other thing is that if you don't have 1 million followers or whatever,
It's pissing in the wind, man.
Yeah, what is it?
It really is like, it really is just, I was going to say this, like, when I see people like, hey, here are my September shows coming up, and they make a post out of it, and you look at it, and you're like, one of those is a show you run,
Yes.
and the other two are open mics, and then there's like 3 legit shows on there. Like,
that
don't
makes
pad
me
your
very
stats
happy.
like that. Don't pad your stats.
It makes me laugh every time I see, like, oh, on the 13th, I'll be at Platypus at 9:30, and then you're like, wait a minute, isn't
That's
that
an
the
open
open mic? Yeah, and then it's
Everybody can be there.
like, on Monday, I'll be at the Heavy Anchor, whatever, and you're like, that's also an open
But
mic.
it is. But okay, so here's the
But I
flip
get
side
it.
of that is like, yeah, try to get more people to come out to those shows.
Yeah.
By all means, do whatever
Yeah.
you got to do, but don't make it like, here's my tour I got coming up.
Yeah. I do appreciate it. Like, if I'm on a show or I'm putting on a show or whatever, and someone posts about it, I'm like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Like, thanks for helping spread the word. But then, yeah, exactly. If somebody's
Yeah.
like, I'm booked solid for the next like 3 months, and then it's like, no, not really.
Not
man.
booked.
Yeah.
I mean, not
You're
booked,
doing
booked.
stuff.
Yeah, you're
understand
doing
it.
things. You're doing things,
you
which is
want
good.
people to know that you're
But
still doing it. That's
the
great.
one concession I'll make is if that is your open mic that you run, then yeah, absolutely. As somebody that like elected to put on an open mic somewhere, yeah, you should be like trying to,
spread the word, get people out. That makes sense.
by all means.
But,
But if you're just like, I did that shit all the time when I started. Every now and then a Facebook memory will come up, and I'm like,
ugh.
ugh.
That's the only reason they exist, I think, is for you to wake up every day and be like, at least I'm not still that person.
Yes,
At least I'm not still
dude.
that
Every now and then a Facebook memory will come up, and I'll have like a visceral reaction to it because every now and then something comes up. And it is like, I mean, honestly, whether it's a good memory or it's a bad memory, sometimes things come up, and this is like the weird, like, oh, man, full circle, brings me right back around to what was going on right there. This has happened a couple times in the past couple months where something came up, and I was like, something real early on in comedy. There was something that came up. I had a friend that had moved to the UK, and it was just that weird memory of like, I think I had just started doing comedy, maybe. Like, maybe I just started or something like that. And it wasn't going well. And I remember, like, I was married at the time, and I think there was maybe, like, some stuff going on with that at the time. And, it was just, like, some pictures of, like, her going away party or whatever that was in, like, I think we did it at a karaoke night. And it was at a pizza place that used to be in Westport Plaza. and and it was almost like a weird, like I had to walk by the Funny Bone, and like it was almost like I remember at the time being like, fuck, man, those aren't. I'm not getting like good vibes out of that place, like 'cause I keep bombing. I'm doing poorly. And then like kind of like not really the sadness, but like it's because I think at the time she lived in D.C., so it's not like she was around anyway. But it was like a friend, like probably not gonna visit you in the UK.
Yeah.
If I didn't make it to D.C. to visit, I'm probably not gonna. I had a friend at the time that lived in Columbia, Missouri. And I didn't visit him until he was like, "Hey, I'm moving to Texas." I was like, "I should get down there and see you."
That's one of those things when somebody has a going away party where it's also kind of like well, it was nice to know you type thing. Because
kinda, I mean, social media does make it like, the same friend. I was going through like, I forget why. I was looking for something. I was going through old text messages, and she's moved back to the States now, but she's not close. So again, it's one of those things where like. Yeah, it's still, who knows when, like if she comes in town for the holidays, probably to hang out. But again, she comes in town, and like people who come in town and they've been out of town for a long time, they're fucking busy, man.
Yeah.
So it's hard to lock them down sometimes. So they got to do like a big group thing or whatever, which can be great. But it's also like, I never put it, if we don't get to hang out when they're in town, when somebody I know is in town, they're busy. They're visiting friends or visiting family. They got, coming in town with a kid is like you're visiting grandparents, you're doing all this shit. It's a lot to juggle.
The worst.
Yeah,
it's the worst. Just from like when you're in the military and then you come home on leave, you're like, I get to come home once a year sometimes.
Yeah,
for 2 weeks.
It's a hard out.
Oh yeah, and then you have 55 people. They're like, well, how come you haven't been to see me? It's like, how come you haven't been to see me? Why do I have to go around? It's like I'm exhausted.
Aunt Carrie, we're not close. That's why. That's why.
Yeah. Come see me.
If it's Thanksgiving and you happen to be at the house that is celebrating Thanksgiving, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm getting that now. I posted something, and again, I'm going to share these dates in a minute.
Yeah.
But I posted something that actually like, I forget, a grandparent, my mom shared or whatever, and it was like a clip of me doing stand-up, and I had these people coming out of the woodwork sending me friends, or sending me friend requests on Facebook and like following me on Instagram. I'm like, who the fuck, If somebody out of the blue follows you on Instagram, it's porn.
Yeah,
it's usually some like, it's something stupid. And whatever. I guess it like, I don't know what damage it could do.
Yeah,
really, I'm not gonna follow back. But it was like a bunch of like, I don't know if they're family members necessarily, or they're like a leg of my family that I'm just not close with or whatever. But then people posting like thoughtful things like, oh, that's so cool to see you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, but it's somebody like, I had to go like look at all their photos and be like, I remember that person.
Oh,
yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then it does kind of give you that like guilty feeling of like, yeah, I guess I don't like really visit that part of my family very often.
I don't. My family's not close. You know what I mean? Like we're just.
Are you guys like spread out?
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it.
But even before we were spread out, we weren't close. You know what I mean? So it was like we would get together occasionally, and then now that all my grandparents are dead, like it's just the family has.
That shit happened with my ex-wife's family. You realize like her grandmother. It's her dad's mom.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason those people would put up with each other.
Yes.
Is to come over there on Thanksgiving and sometimes on Christmas. And then when she passed, it was like, yeah, you're right. That whole thing just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And they all were just like, we don't have to keep.
So that's what happened to my family. My wife's family, my wife has all 4 of her grandparents still, which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, because, she's...
They're probably getting to the age where it's like, any day now. Yeah, my grandma, my mom's mom is like that right now.
Don't want to say anything, but it is getting to that point. And I keep telling my wife, I'm like, hey, these big family get-togethers of 70, 80 people at Christmas and Easter, those are on its final legs. And she's like, no. We're still going to get to it. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But from someone who has experience with this, it's winding down. But talking about how bad we are with social media and like people following you or whatever, I was so bad. I knew nothing about Instagram. I thought when someone followed you, you had to follow them back because it was either
so
rude.
now you're following like
Oh yeah. So I get messages all the time. They're like, "Why are you following my aunt or whatever?" And it's like, "Hey, why don't you leave Cheryl and I alone?" Okay.
Yeah.
We're I enjoyed her lemon bar recipe. Like, don't worry about what we have going on. I thought it was like Facebook, where it's like someone wants to be your friend.
you have to accept,
and then you have to
you sort of
prove-
accept them into your
It's
life
like a
as well.
mutual agreement of we
Yeah,
will
man.
be friends on Facebook. I didn't know Instagram was like, no, people just follow you and you don't have to follow back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that I am just randomly following, and I'll see.
So if it's a Facebook thing, and it's, if it's a band or a musician or a comedian or an artist, because there is like that's a different kind of story. But if you have to have some sort of appreciation for somebody doing something, and you have to like celebrate and help support their creative endeavors because you're on that team.
Yeah.
But also, you're not the target demographic for what they're trying to do on social media.
No.
So I do it a lot. I'll accept your friend request if you're especially comedians. Musicians a little bit too, but it's like you get that same shit where it's like, yeah, I'm probably not coming out to your bar show in Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah. No.
And if it's somebody who's like, kind of the hustle and grind of it, like really putting it out there, posting a lot, man, I call it the graveyard. There's a lot of comedians in the graveyard of like people I followed and then, or like I'm friends with, but you unfollow them and they're dead to me.
Yeah.
Essentially. And sorry, I'm sorry, but it's like, I also don't have like a professional Facebook page. I don't have any of that shit. It's just my personal shit.
It doesn't do anything. As someone,
I don't think it does. I don't know.
Someone who has both, just a personal Facebook page and professional Facebook page.
Now you're just hitting up people. Like I was saying, like I accidentally posted something multiple times,
Yeah.
the same exact thing. Now you're just doing that with a promotion, with a professional page too. So how much are your like high school friends gonna put up with your shit like until you're in the graveyard?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's there's so many times where you will post something and people will be like, "Oh, when are you going to be in town next?" And you're like, "Well, I'm actually going to be there this date, this date, this date." And they're like, "Oh, well, yeah, we'll try."
Yeah, I'm a grown up and I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I
And
think
I'm like,
I got
I get it.
my kid's baseball tournament that weekend.
I feel like, so this is a little off topic, but I was talking about this the other day with somebody, is that if you're a parent, it should be a completely acceptable answer to just say, "My kid's got a thing." You don't need to elaborate. We don't need to go further. It could be a doctor's appointment. It could be a baseball game. It could be a play.
Yeah.
My kid's got a thing. If you invite me somewhere and I'm like, "Oh, I'd love to, but my kid's got a thing," that should just be like, "Oh, okay, cool." But it's like, I hate it when I tell people that and they're like, "Oh, what's up? What's going on?" And you're like,
Don't follow up question
"It's a
me.
thing, man. Just
You don't believe me?
yeah, my daughter has cheer practice and like, don't let me. I don't want to get into this."
Hey, here's the thing my kids got going on. Having me in their life. That's
Yeah.
what they got going on, is having me around.
Yeah, we're gonna sit
That's
down and
what's
play
up.
Scrabble. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't.
We're
want
going
to
to spend
your,
quality time when we're going to bond.
Yeah, I don't want to see your one man show. Okay?
Right.
I'm so sorry. We're. I don't know. There's a new episode of Bluey on Disney Plus. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what we're doing.
My excuses for shit like that are I'm not going to say precious few because I still got a dog and a cat that I'm like, I can't disappear from their life either. I got to feed them.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to I am actually like actively trying to like not just be around my house for no reason. I know that sounds stupid. Like I sort of gave myself like after like dropping my kid off at college. That's why I can't be like, my kid's got a thing. He's not.
I mean,
He doesn't have a thing. He's at school. So I gave myself like September, fill up September. Because this happened last year too. When I dropped him off, I did have that like, oh my God. Yeah, my house is just. I need to actively like. So this is how I structured it. Like, okay, September, I'm gonna like fill up my calendar with like either like social stuff or whatever, but also just like try to have some shows. Go out, be more active with like comedy stuff and open mics or whatever, but also just like go to see a movie, do things that are just like, there's no reason for me not to go out and do stuff. Go get dinner, go get a movie, go do whatever. Just just get out of your house if it's like bumming you out that there's like nobody around, and every now and then the dog gets like my dog is so skittish about like somebody's walking down the street and she gets all pumped up and goes over, and you have that like nobody's coming here, dude.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And then October is the month I've decided like that's the month I'm gonna start like doing things around my house, like rearranging. There's like all kinds of housework, like house like remodeling work I got to do.
Yeah.
And the weather will be nice enough to where I'm not like it's not going to be oppressively hot. So there's almost like so now there's no excuse to not be building my deck. There's no excuse to not be like doing certain
repairing
things.
the gutters
Because I've also like I put that deadline on. I thought I might be selling my house and trying to move closer to the city. But then I sort of had that like what's this year instead of next year? Maybe the interest rates will be better or whatever. And then I just sort of like put it on me like fix up your house. I did sort of shrug my shoulders and be like, if somebody's going to buy it like this, I'm not fixing shit, man.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it the way it is and see what happens. But now I'm a little more like, yeah, improve your surroundings also. Like while you're still like on the fence about maybe moving, I also just don't want to deal with it. Like the market's high right now. Interest rates fucking suck.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you are preaching to the choir because I am dying to move out of where we live and get closer to the city. And every year we're like, this is the year. We're going to do it. We're fixing up the house. We're going to sell it.
The year was like, I got a couple friends that like bought and moved during COVID.
Yeah. I feel like that might
and
have
it's been... that is like, it was enticing. Don't get me wrong. At the beginning of it, while that shit was going on, I was still married. And we were doing that like, hey, the kid's going to be in college. We're going to be empty nesters. Fuck it, man. We don't need the school district. Let's move. And then she did that. She sort of did that.
Yeah.
She's an empty nester.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, but I had like I don't dislike my house. I just look where I live is just a little bit like it's just the suburbs, man. I'm not close with my neighbors. I like the neighbor that lives across from me, but it's also like I wouldn't. It's not that I wouldn't. That sounds mean to say. Like I wouldn't miss him, but I wouldn't be like, man, I can't leave Chris.
Oh, I'm the worst neighbor. I'm the worst neighbor. Like I don't play music late. I'm not too loud. I take care of my yard.
You're just not involved in their lives.
I just don't. I don't engage at all. My whole philosophy is that if you can see my house from your house, you're too close for me to know you. I don't.
Yeah,
want
I'm
you
the
to
other
know.
way, man. I almost want to live. I almost want to live where you can't help it, but be like, like some of the city houses I was looking at are like tight quarters, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with that. I need a little yard for my dog, a garage, or a basement for my tools, bedroom for me, bedroom for the kid, because he's not majoring in anything that's gonna like. he's probably not on a rocket ship to financial stability, so he's gonna be living with me. I just assume that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it also is like, just like the vibe around where I live. I'm not like in the culture where I live. There's not.
I had a buddy who moved maybe 3-4 houses away from me, and I've known him since I was 15. And since he moved in, we talk once every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's like, I'm sorry, man, you're too close now. I don't want you to know when I'm home and when I'm not home. I don't want you to know, like, if I mow my grass on a Monday and then a week goes by and I don't mow it again till like the next Thursday.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be like,
I have those
breathing
moments
down my neck. It's like, I promise I'll get to it. Leave me alone.
I also, there is that little bit of like the pop in, like people popping in. It's kind of, it almost seems like, but I watch Seinfeld and every time Kramer comes up, I'm like, for every, like if that was real life, for every one time he came over and it was just like Jerry hanging out, at least 2 out of 10 times he caught Jerry jerking off or something like that. Where it's like, dude, don't just like pop in.
Come on, man.
Especially like for the time, that's where the one TV is. That's where like, don't just pop in and first of all lock your door, Jerry.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the other thing. But it is like,
yeah, you live in New York City, man. Come on, lock the door.
I'm assuming as a doorman.
Yeah.
Type of building where they didn't have that problem of like people just wandering in.
Well, he always buzzes people in, like George and Elaine. He would always buzz
so that's
in
street
from the
level.
street.
But yeah, Kramer's in the building.
in the
So if
hallway.
you're not,
Yeah, I mean, he hated Newman. Newman would pop in, and it's
Yeah.
like Newman lived in the building. But we had to set some hard boundaries when we moved back from California because we are half a mile from my mother-in-law. And then maybe another quarter of a mile further away is my wife's grandma
Yeah.
and grandpa. And there were a lot of pop-ins in the beginning. And it was like, pause.
yeah,
All right, guys. We love
boundaries.
you. Give us a call. If you say, hey, I'm on my way over, that's one thing.
That's different.
That's one thing. Okay, all right, cool. Let's clean up real quick or let's be ready to have people. But if I'm sitting on the couch in my boxers and you just like walk in, I'm not changing clothes. I'm
Yeah.
going to make it very uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to stand there.
You're
I'm
going to
just
see
gonna
the
sit-
outline.
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to see me in my boxers. You invaded my space. This
Yeah.
is my fortress of solitude. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Superman doesn't put on his cape just because his mother-in-law came over. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't know.
I don't have a.
It sounds selfish, I guess, but at the same time, it's like, if you would have told me you were coming, I would have gone and put on some sweatpants or a shirt or something like that. But
Yeah, I'm not a guy. I don't typically like hang out around my house. I'll be in pajamas. I'll be in like my house clothes.
yeah,
But my house clothes is usually like, I don't like walk around my house. Even like there's nobody there. It's just me, the dog, and the cat. I don't like walk around in my
Uh-huh.
underwear typically. I have been a little more like, I have been a little more like, I do that a little bit. But there's been a couple times recently where I like took a shower and was like, I forgot to get a towel, and
Yeah.
I just did laundry and it's all folded on the. I was like, what's
who cares?
or like I toweled off and I was like, oh, I did my laundry and it's all like folded in baskets in the living room. And I'm like, nobody here. There's no cameras.
I could see you doing like a quick victory lap around the house just because you're like, I'm alone, I'm the king, and then go back and all right now.
No, I still respect the sanctity, or I still respect that like my kid will be there.
Yes.
And I think there's like a certain energy you put onto things, so it's not like, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like I sort of look at it as like that's his space too. And being like a shitty roommate one time that had sex on on a friend's like beanbag chair enough times to where we kept having to roll the chair over to the point where it was like, there's just no hiding it.
Yeah.
I have sex on your chair, dude.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah. Sometimes, did you ever try to get away with it? Like, I spilled something on your. No, you just.
No, part of me was like, I think I was maybe a little salty at him because he was also like, this is also one of my best friends to this day.
Okay.
But it was also like, I'm curious about what his take on the story would be. I don't know if I ever brought it up. I just know when he was moving out, his girlfriend, now wife at the time, was like, hey, help me get this chair. And he's like, that's staying. But it was also like, I think it was like, we got that apartment and I had started dating, or, like started dating or whatever. We had both started dating like people we wound up marrying. And he was staying at his girlfriend's apartment a lot. And my girlfriend was staying at my apartment a lot. And he was never there, but he would still like cook food and leave the dishes and shit. And he would like shave his head, and there would be like the
little hairs.
Evidence.
Yeah.
For a long time, I thought we had mice because there was like little short hairs everywhere, and it wasn't like it wasn't a lot, but it was like he would sweep up, but then like sort of like I caught him doing it, and I just thought we had like mouse traps everywhere. And there would never be a mouse. And I'm like, God, it's very clever mice around here. I guess they're just used to apartment living. They just get it.
Man.
They know what a mousetrap looks like now. I'm going to have to get clever. But then one day I was sitting on the couch that faced away from the kitchen, and I just heard bzzz, and I turned around and I watched the whole process. He would set a chair in the middle of the kitchen because it had vinyl floors.
Mm-hmm.
He would shave his head, and then he would like clumsily sweep it up, and then like dustpan, and the like they would like sort of float down and like settle back down around the trash can and around like the perimeter of the wall where the trash can was. Because it like floats down. Even like, I mean, if you've ever like I trim my beard.
Oh yeah.
And then I still find hair sometimes where I'm like, there's just no getting it all the first go around. You know?
I am an overtly hairy man.
Yeah.
I mean, I am. If I didn't stay on top of it, I would look like. I told someone the other day that I would look like Robin Williams when he came out of Jumanji. You know, where
I've never
big bushy beard.
Never seen that. I work with a guy that like
really.
I work with a guy that you can see like his hair like
yeah.
around his collar. Ugh.
Oh, and I know the thing that annoys me the most is when people leave hair like that is because I know how it is annoying to have to clean up. I do it all the time, and I always am leaving like you always miss one or two.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But at least an attempt was made. When people like sloppily just like they just like brush it off the counter with their hand or whatever, it's like that doesn't do it. That doesn't make it go away. It's just. It's on the floor, and now it's on my sock or on my foot, or now it's on the carpet, and blah blah.
Yeah,
like
especially if you're shaving your bikini zone. You know what I mean? If you're shaving that, there is a little bit of like, there's no mistaking what that hair is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So my attitude is like, just be a gentleman about it. Like,
please, like
do it somewhere where it's gonna contain the mess. But yeah, especially if you're doing that. My house has one bathroom, so if I'm not good about cleaning up after myself, and then my son, there's not a chance he's like my dad.
You can't blame
is
that
in
on
here trimming
anyone
his pubes.
else. Yeah. Oh yeah. You
Yeah.
can't blame. That's it. The one bathroom. Everybody knows. If there's a mess, we know who did it.
Yeah. I also try to do it like when he's out of the house now. Who gives a shit? I'll do it on the couch in the living room, whatever. But but it's also like I wouldn't be like, he's just home hanging out in his room, and in the bathroom he can just hear me for like 40 minutes, like.
Dad, don't come in here. I'm busy.
Anyway, I got some dates coming up.
Oh yeah, you have any
40 minutes ago.
Come hang out.
And yeah, the other one, Copper Fire in Belleville, Illinois, September 14th of 2024. I'll be there also.
I've done that room, I think.
Is it
it's
cool?
Fun. It's
nice.
Good. That's a good one. Belleville, I've done a couple shows there. They have some fun. There's some fun venues, and it's always a good crowd.
Yeah, I did. I've done a couple. Here's the thing: when you're doing places like that, and it is one of those weird. I get it living where I live because where St. Louis is at, whatever show you got going on, like you might have to cross. It's always people make fun of people who won't cross a river.
Yeah.
That part of Illinois, like they're not that far away from coming to see shows in Illinois, but it's like it's across the river.
Yeah.
It's all the way.
Well,
it's all the way across the river. It's 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get the same thing where I live. People are like, "Oh, that's cool. You got shows coming up." And you're like, "Yeah, you should come out."
I feel
across
like
the river.
We have more. I feel like we have a better. Once you're crossing state lines, then it's like
it's not a toll bridge.
I don't know. I look at Illinois. I look at Illinois probably the way people in South Korea look at North Korea, where they're like, "I don't want to go over there."
Natural enemies?
Yeah, I mean, like maybe. I don't particularly enjoy crossing the river, and when I do, I'm like,
Illinois?
I really hope my papers are in order because I don't know your laws. Like, I don't know. It just seems.
What laws do you think you?
I have no idea.
Are you talking about?
Well, I don't. I have no idea.
You stay strapped.
So
is that
I'm
what?
just like,
is that what's up? You stay ready for.
Oh, come on. Somebody asked me the other day. So they were like, "At your house, like, how many guns do you have?" And I was like, "Oh man."
Enough.
Yeah.
Are you a gun guy? Because you're in the
so-
military. It makes sense to be. I look at it this way.
I'm not a huge gun guy. I don't carry. I don't like most of the time.
Yeah, we shouldn't. We're
Yeah.
comedians. We're in bars a lot.
Exactly. And when I first started, when I very first started, I did for like the first week because I was very nervous. My whole life, I'd grown up hearing St. Louis is dangerous. It's the most dangerous city in America. It's the most dangerous. Don't go up there. It's dangerous. And I was like, I'm alone. I don't know anybody. And within 2 open mics, I was like, oh, this
It's
is
fine.
this is fine. Like
It
that.
is.
And
Don't
then
get
also
me wrong. Shit happens.
you're going in, like you said, you're going
It's-
into a bar.
it's
Don't bring a
densely-
gun
yeah,
to a bar.
absolutely.
You're asking for trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, do I have one at my house, or would I have one just in case someone were? Yeah, maybe. Well,
Yeah.
maybe.
I have the attitude like this. Like I have a gun. I have a shotgun, which is like it's set up for home defense, but it's also not ready for home defense. It's under my bed. It's got like the trigger guard, like locked into it. So if I did have, but I also have a dog that would be like middle of the night. Mm-hmm. If somebody's like walking down the street, she lets me know. So I guess that would be like enough warning time to like I've thought about it before. Like
Exactly.
I don't live in like a real dangerous place, but that's the thing. It's.
Well, I live in a town of 13,000
Like,
people. It's not dangerous. It's just a what if. And my dog,
Fine. Yeah.
But my dog lets me know, like, "Ruh, ruh, 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 ruh," like, oh, is there something? And then most of the time it's nothing. But I look at guns probably the same way you look at like hammers and stuff, where you're like, I used this all the time. It's a tool. I don't care about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like when you're not at work, you're probably not carrying around tools, right? That's how I feel. And sometimes I see people that are carrying around guns all the time, and I'm like, oh, you just want to feel like a big boy. You know what I mean? Like
you just want to be a tough guy. You want to do tough guy shit.
Yeah, it's the same as when people are like, you want to see my tools? You want to see my workroom, my shed or whatever? And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'll go look.
I also don't dislike guns. I'm not like a person who's like, I've been around people who are like, talk about, guns like it's like, oh, big man. Like, shooting guns is pretty fun, though.
It is fun.
It's really fun. And it is like, there's also like, I have this same attitude towards guns sometimes. I'm going to plug the rest of my dates.
Yeah,
in a
we'll
minute.
get there. Like I said, we'll get there. We got time.
I had the same attitude towards like luxury cars or like, what are they, like McLarens and shit like that, and like these high performance vehicles or whatever. Like, there's a subtle appreciation for like the engineering involved in it, because the tolerance, and then also like the stats of like weird things like the longest sniper shot is like almost 2 miles or something like that. And if you've ever looked through like a scope, you're like, that's 2 miles is insane. And it's not like in the movies where like the scope is like from me to you and the scope goes like, oh, there's his head.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you can barely see it.
You can.
And there's like so much. So there's like, I don't know. There's some sort of like appreciation for like almost like the craftsmanship of it.
I agree with you.
But I also don't feel the need to have one on me.
No.
Ever or loaded or whatever. And I hope I'm never in a position where I was like, wrong again, Scott.
Yeah.
You should have been strapped up, man.
Oh no.
And by the way, if I ever do, I'm going old school. I'm going old
holster.
school, gumshoe detective.
Okay. Yeah. Old homicide detective over the shoulder.
Yeah. That's how I'm doing it.
The people that I can't stand, if you're choosing to carry a weapon around, that's fine, but conceal it. Like, don't have it out. The people that I cannot stand are the open carry people.
Yeah, the open carry people,
which is ridiculous because
it also is. If you're a pro gun person, they make you look like dickheads.
Yeah, they do. They're ruining it for everybody else.
Yeah,
because it doesn't make any, like, I could kind of see like a hip holster, because especially if you can
put
cover
a jacket
it up,
over
if you
it,
put a jacket over it and cover it up with a shirt.
But it also is like, oh, this guy's chubby on one side of his hip.
Oh, you've got a weird hip. You know, either you have a tumor.
You got a squared off hip, man.
Or
you are also like, if you're like an open carry person, if you're just being real douchey about how you conceal and carry, I sort of look at it like this. If shit goes crazy, you are also saying like, hey, me first. Get
That's
me
exactly
first.
what I said. I told I went to a Burger King one time, and there was a guy who had an AR-15 strapped across his back. He was sitting there eating a burger, and he was like, he was wanting people to tell him, "You can't carry it," whatever. And he's like, it's an open carry state. I have the right to have a fire, whatever. And so you could
What a
just tell
dildo.
he wanted someone.
Yeah,
to
he wants
confront.
somebody to tell him.
He can't do it, so he can be like,
Yeah.
according to the law, blah blah. But I was just sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, if I came in to rob this Burger King, I would open the door.
Not a chance he'd get that
before
thing
I
off his
even
back.
before I even got to the register, I'd be like, oh, bam.
Yeah.
All right, now give me all your money. You know what I mean? Or
There's a guy that shopped at the grocery store like closest to my house that would come in with one on his hip all the time, and I know he's not law enforcement. This guy,
he's not John Wick. He's not,
absolutely
yeah,
not. This guy, I mean, I'm gonna say poor physical condition.
Yeah. Okay.
Not exactly like doing the monkey bars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he wears the fucking thing on his hip, and I've been like behind him and just had that like sick thought of like, oh, I could just walk up behind him. This guy's a doofus.
Yeah,
I could walk up behind him, pull that thing out of its holster,
This is mine now. Yeah.
and be like, "You're in real trouble now
yeah.
because you had the thing on your hip, like an idiot." I just think it's the same thing with a lot of things. Like I'm not so hardcore about whatever my political beliefs are, whatever my social beliefs are. But every time it's somebody that I agree with that is being a douchebag about it, you're like, I'm always like, you're not doing us any good.
No.
You're making it harder to be like supportive of things I really feel strongly about.
The more you scream at people, the less they pay attention.
Yeah.
Which is like
It's that way anyway right now. People,
Yeah.
nobody's minds are being changed. I think everybody does sort of in a weird way just want credit for being
right.
right.
Yeah. So they can be like, I told you so. I told
And
you
it's
this.
like, who gives a
It's like,
shit?
okay.
Told you so. Okay, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Are we better off now that you have another feather in your cap?
That was always my problem with the story of Chicken Little, where he was like, the sky is falling, and everybody's like, all right, shut up, man, whatever. Nobody paid attention, and then something happened, and the sky did fall or whatever. But it's still like, okay, but you didn't do anything to stop it. You were right, but we're all still you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna spend your time focusing on a problem, why not try to focus on solving the problem instead
It's
of
sort of the same thing as like you see comedians do it all the time. It's the same like I've worked with people like this, and it's like shut up. Where they're like, oh, you can't get away with saying half their act is like, oh, you can't say anything. I mean, like the other day I was blah blah blah, and you just wanted to say something shit. You wanted to say that.
Okay.
And by the way, the joke isn't strong enough to justify saying it. You just want to be that guy.
It's never.
And it's the most because I am a very strong proponent of the First Amendment. Like we need, if nothing else, we need to be able to speak our minds. And unfortunately, like the worst possible case scenarios, you sort of have to go to bat for that too and be like, well, yeah, I mean, he gets to say that. I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences, but he shouldn't be jailed for it or shouldn't be.
Yes.
I don't know where we draw the line with like the shittiness of things we say, because I've said things on stage and had people get pretty upset with me, and then had to be that guy going like, you just heard the part of it that upsets you.
Yeah.
Did you actually hear what I was trying to say? Mm-hmm. And that is sort of hard to get across after the fact. And I've done that before with things where it's like, look, I understand that the way that came out, maybe like you have to like, in terms of like self-reflection, like, am I getting it across the way I need to make sure this shit doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I mean, eat what's on your plate first. Do your own sort of thing. And this spills over into a lot of things in life where it's like, okay, this went bad. What percentage of it was, and be honest with yourself, what part of this was my fault? What could I have done differently? And to what end? Like, is this something, I mean, there's been times where somebody's jawing at me and I'm like, I don't, you're not somebody I care about appeasing. So fuck off. I talk how I like.
Yeah.
And by the way, the show's over.
Yeah.
You're not, you did it. I did it. We all did it. It's over. Go home.
So my least favorite premise in the world from any comedian, it doesn't matter if you're first time open micer, 25-year road dog, whatever. My least favorite premise of all time is people want to talk about the porn they watch. And it drives me nuts because I'm like, no one wants to hear this. No one cares. Unless it's the greatest punchline of all time,
Yeah.
nobody cares. Everybody's going to be pretty grossed out by this. But I'm not going to tell you you can't do it
Yeah.
because that's part of it. Yeah,
There's plenty of things.
Part of it. And it's like,
I've said this before too, especially given that I've got shows coming up in areas I'm not familiar with, like Clarksville, Tennessee, on September the 20th at Rage and Axes.
and I will be
It's
there
an
as
axe throwing
well.
place. We're going to be doing comedy at an axe throwing place.
It could.
We better have.
We better mind our P's and Q's.
Yeah,
you know
dude.
what I mean?
But this is my point. Also, I'm going to apply this theory to my show in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and also Rage and Axe. It's a chain, apparently. We're doing them both.
Oh, nice.
And I think to a lesser degree because Sunday, I'll keep it clean. Sunday, September 22nd at Tap 216 in Murray, Kentucky. It's the Lord's Day. It is Sunday. I'll probably try to keep it a little clean.
yeah.
But my point being is when, like, especially if it's like, I sort of know there's certain things, you know, around St. Louis or in the city or whatever, like, there's certain things where I'm like, you know, I think this is sort of hacky. I think this is a little bit, I'm not necessarily like all the way proud of this material, but it keeps working and it works every time. So maybe keep that in your back pocket if you need something that like, all right, I'm pretty confident that this joke is going to work. But when you're doing shows like that or it's an away game or whatever, and you sort of need to like, I kind of just need to like do something that's got a long history of working well, I'm not above it. I don't give a shit. And I've heard all the high-minded concepts about what comedy is, what comedy should be, whatever. You're not a soothsayer. You're not, you know, I get it. I like to do, I have plenty of material where I'm like, I'm really proud of this conceptually. And I think the writing is solid. And I think the point I'm making is a really solid point. Well, if it doesn't get a laugh, what good is it to me in that context? It has to get the laugh.
Exactly. Oh,
especially if you're going to justify some high concept, pretentious bullshit. Because I've also worked with those comics and been around them where they're like, it's all high concept. We all think you're very smart. Then not a lot of laughs. I think people were like, but it's also like that's also a version of like weird pandering that I hate. When I can tell that somebody's pandering to a very like, oh, you're used to pandering to like these type of people, and now you're doing the same shit in front of these type of people, and you don't know what to do when there's not an applause after bringing up a topic.
That's why I appreciate the Patties of the world, the comedy club servers that have been doing it for 20 years.
They're not impressed.
They don't
not
care.
impressed with anything.
It doesn't matter how good your point is. It doesn't matter how right your politics are. If you're not making people laugh, they'll come up to you and be like, "You're not funny. You need to make some jokes like that." And it is awkward moment when that happens, but it is fun to see.
Yeah, also take your medicine.
Yeah,
I have it all the time. You know, I definitely have it all the time going through like my notebooks that I'm doing right now. And I always say like, I forget who told me this or where I heard it. It may have been on a podcast when I was just starting comedy as they were talking about like writing like your comedy autobiographically because presumably you'll keep living a life. So whatever you're writing about, but it's also why like a lot of comics have jokes about like, oh, I was on the highway or, you know, staying in a shitty hotel. A lot of comics have airport material or I was on a plane material and this crazy shit happened. That is one of those things where it's like, I mean, good. Another New York comic with a lot of subway material.
Yeah.
But it is like they're writing about what they're doing.
It's their life.
But it's also like you sort of have this like weird, like not every life event is going to yield funny shit.
No.
And that's And I sort of have the idea that like, but that's the job. That is the high wire act of like, yeah, even if it's something bad or it's maybe something a little more serious in life, like write jokes about it. You know, try to make it funny. Try to like make it something. And then sometimes you'll be surprised how often it's like kind of a relatable topic. But then if it's something bad, you know, like when I was getting divorced, man, it's all I was writing about because it was all that was on my mind. Like I'm probably not like, you get what I'm saying? And there was a time where it was like that material was firing hot and it was working, and I was like, I do think that this is like good writing. It's punched up. I feel good about the writing. And then here's the sad thing. I got to a point where I was like, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about it.
Yeah.
And now there are things that I've salvaged from that, like, and it was probably like 10 minutes worth of material.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of it was like worthy of saving, but there were moments where it was like, I mean, applause breaks, it was doing great. And there were times where I was doing that material and it was maybe a little too like, ugh, this is a little raw.
Well, I remember when it was fresh. I remember the first time I heard it, and I was like, and fantastic material. Like,
Hey.
great. Yeah, great material. But also, I was like, oh man, I'm really sad that this happened to
I had
him.
a couple people tell me like, hey man, I'm real sorry for what you're going through.
I think the first time I heard it, I think I told you, like, I really like your new bit, but I am sorry that happened, you know?
Okay,
But I do like that you've salvaged some of it, and you've made it not. It's not a sad.
So here's what I tried to do with it, and it's still sort of a work in progress because it's become part of a piece. I say a piece of material. It sounds very pretentious, but like a path that I'm kind of taking right now, where it's like talk about it more broadly. Mm-hmm. In terms of it being like it's not specific to my ex-wife as much anymore as it is like specific to like whatever where I'm at, or where like, you know, just divorces or even cheating or whatever, something like that, to where it's not something, honestly, and I say this because I just hung out with her for the first time in I don't know, like at least a year and a half. Like, actually had to like sit and talk to her. And
has it been that long?
There's a reason. No, it's been over 2 years.
Really?
It's been over 2 years. But you got to think, for the first like month, she was still living in the house. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, she just kind of vanished. And it's not that she like vanished. It was more a matter of like, you know, this sounds really mean because that's the mother of my son. But it's also like he was 18. If you're not in the house and we're not, you know, as soon as we don't have there's not a vacation house we're trying to parse up, that we don't have like, you know, investments we're trying to sort out. It was more just a matter of like, you know, I could be like, when it's done, it's done. And, you know, it's okay. There's just no coming back from certain things. And, you know, I did get to a point where like, you know, once like the hurt wears off and you sort of like, you know, rub it out of your eyes and you're a little bit like, oh man, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
I think she did me a big favor because and this is the thing I know about me. I wasn't going to leave her.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to, because I didn't want to be a guy that left his wife.
Because then no matter what happens,
I didn't want to be somebody.
It looks bad on you.
I didn't want to be, yeah, but that also makes it sound like I was waiting for something to go wrong so I could justify it.
Right.
And I think like the weird like, you know, like Smeagol and Gollum, or like the angel and the devil. I do think there was that little bit of like, maybe.
Do it.
But there was also just the like, there was a little bit, this also sounds like I looked down my nose at her a little bit, but I also think like, what's she going to do? Like if I'm sort of like at that point in life, I think that, I don't know. I felt bad for her a lot of times. I just had to get to a point to where I felt worse for me.
thinking about
and having that little bit of like, and it did sort of like, but my point is like once you got past like a certain, like sort yourself out, and I did sort of give myself not a timeline, but I gave myself like a let yourself be in pain.
yeah.
You know, you're okay to have hurt feelings. Nobody's gonna, but also don't spill onto anybody else.
Yeah.
Which I did because I had a lot of material about it, and I was like, and I wasn't shy about it. I'm not shy about things like that because I don't feel like I think I know a lot of people who have like, you know, they're hurting.
Yeah.
They have things that they deal with, and maybe it wouldn't be something that you've ever found out about unless something bad happened where you had to find out about it, or something like that. You know what I mean? That sucks. And so the two things I give is like give yourself time to be in pain and to like sulk and pout or do whatever you need to do to try to like get it out of your system. It's almost like drinking too much and you're like, I need to throw up. Throw up.
Yeah.
Get it out of your system. And sometimes that throwing up does lead to more throwing up, but it will be better for you.
Well, I'm just thinking about how it would be if I was in that situation where I had discovered maybe some infidelity, you know, or whatever, and there would be part that Angel and Demon, Smeagol and Gollum, like at first I would be anger and hurt, and then I think after a little bit there would be that part where it would be like, I'm free, you know, like a little bit.
I did that, but here's the. Well, you're sort of free, but that's where a lot of dudes in my position, and I've seen it happen. And I'm not saying I didn't have these moments, but it's pathetic to go like, "Hey, I'm free. I can do whatever.
Yeah.
I can. Hey, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to bars more. I'm gonna go like, hey, I can be picking up on women. I can do this. I can do that. You can, but is that don't go out of character?
Don't be a scumbag.
Don't get so out of pocket that you're like, you know, a little bit like I sort of had this attitude towards it. Is don't do things that you would have to apologize to the next person you're in a relationship with. Don't go into that thinking like, hey, trying to justify like shitty behavior.
Yes.
And be like, hey, you got to understand my feelings were hurt. That's why I started doing blow. And that's why I was spending thousands in like strip clubs and whatever. Don't do that shit. Just still be you. Like, don't, I mean, there will be a certain like, and I had this too with like, you know, those like angry moments or whatever, or those petty moments. I had like, and I still sort of have this thing going on where I'm like, these are texts I don't send.
Yeah.
Where I had like notes on my phone, and sometimes it would be because she was goading me into something, texting something, and I'd be like, and I'd start typing, and I'd be like, don't do that.
Backspace.
But I also wanted to like throw up. I wanted to get that out of my system.
Right.
And I did a lot of that, and I think that's something.
I think that goes back to the thing where they tell you to like, therapists used to say, write an angry letter and then burn it or whatever. Like, don't send it, but it's just like gets it out. Yeah,
I do. I deleted a lot of those.
But I told my wife the other day, we were talking about it, and she was like, do you ever think about being single or like what you would do? And it's like, yeah, all the time. But I'm not. When I fantasize about being single, I'm not fantasizing about going to bars and meeting girls and sleeping around. I want to like order a pizza with black olives on it. You know what I mean? Like I want to just like that's my because like she likes pepperoni, cheese, sausage. She's not super, you know, she's not a foodie like I am. And so it's like those are my fantasies.
She's not a
of like,
Pizza Hut connoisseur like I am. I like a little vegetable.
I'm a little classy, right? I like a little garlicky butter crust.
I let this, but that's sort of one of those things. And it almost sounds like a weird way to put it. Eat somebody else's pizza sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there was like the last woman I dated, like she would get shit on her pizzas that I was like, that's never, I would never order that for myself. I would never do that. I'm going to try it though. And I think there's this weird like, don't close yourself off so much.
Yes.
That you're like, no, I don't do that.
Exactly.
Have your boundaries, but don't be putting up walls on things. And I think pizza toppings, good place to start.
I was about to say, especially when it comes to food. Like, I understand setting
Yeah.
hard boundaries on
I
certain
will.
topics.
I'll try whatever. But I did eat Ethiopian food a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say no. I'm
Yeah.
going to say no on that. I didn't realize that the bread they give you, I knew it was like they would come out with like a platter of shit.
Uh-huh.
But they also, so we ordered, my son and I ordered like an appetizer, and it all comes out with this like bread, and I just thought it was going to be different, But
Yeah.
I was like also into the adventure. Yeah, let's do whatever, man.
But you tried it. That's the point.
Yeah,
that
the problem
you did
is with
say
the
yes.
Ethiopian food and the bread they bring you is, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Ethiopian food. The actual like things they bring you are delicious, and again, it's like spices you would never think to put together. It's a cooking
Right.
that I'm not familiar with or that I wouldn't do. So it is like it tastes good. The problem is the bread they bring you, because it's like they bring you this like folded up soggy bread. That it's like a sourdough, so it's like it's fermented, so it's got that weird soury taste to it.
Okay.
But that's the bread you eat everything with. So I was expecting more of like naan bread or something like that, where it was a little more like
Yeah.
not throw up tasting. But all of the things, and I wish I had just said to the server, I didn't want to be a fucking square.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm here to do it.
Let me do it the way you guys. Yeah,
Yep.
I want to try it.
Absolutely. But I just wouldn't do that again. And maybe like going into it the next time, I'd be like, can I have a fork? And
Yeah.
do you have a different kind of bread or something like that? And I'm totally willing to be.
Yeah. Next time. Yeah. And I think that's I don't know. I don't see anything too wrong with that.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I've tried it your way. I didn't care for this particular part. I like the rest.
Yeah.
Could I maybe try it my way?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm still coming here, still want to eat, but
I think that's a little. Yeah. That's something important in life. Not just like being adventurous, whatever foods you're gonna eat or whatever. But I do think that's a little bit. I don't know. I used to have this thing with bands, and the only reason I had it with bands was for for a couple reasons. Every now and then I would get like, because you didn't used to like really be able to research anything. You kind of just had to go on like, if you read like a review of an album, or sometimes somebody would tell you like, oh, you should check out this band if you like this band, they're pretty good. And then you would buy like a CD, sight unseen, or sound unheard or whatever. You would just go like, it's just, and sometimes it would be you wouldn't like it, sometimes you would or whatever. And I still have I have really good memories of. Or like there's still like artists and bands that I like to this day that I was like, never heard them before. There's a movie that I'm a big fan of that I bought it. This is when I was working like overnights, these weird overnights. And Tuesdays used to be like, oh, new movies come out. So I used to do like my grocery shopping and shit like that at Walmart overnight.
I love
because it would be the only.
Yes.
Man, you just come across some fucking weirdos doing like normal weirdos and third shift people
Yes.
doing weird stuff. But Tuesdays was when like new release DVDs would come out way back in the day. It was before streaming services and all that type of shit. So I would just go like, I'll see what new movies came out on DVD.
Yeah.
And I bought the movie Old Boy because it sounded
The original.
The
one?
original.
Okay.
It was English dubbed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was the original English dub, but it was whatever. It was like $5 or something like that. I read the back and I was like, sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I took it home and watched it. Still one of my favorite movies. Still one of my favorite experiences of just going into something.
And just being like, let's try it.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And it was also like a cheap enough endeavor to where I wasn't like wholly disappointed. I have that problem sometimes with like travel, where it's like not something like, like what happens if I like buy the plane ticket, I get the hotel, I get there and this town sucks.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit scared because it's a big investment for me.
Right.
I mean, it's not like we're not rich people, and I don't know what your situation is, but like my day job is like I'm in an hourly, like, I make a good wage, but it's a wage. I don't make it unless I'm working it.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, if I'm going to take the time off, I'm also missing the money I was going to be making and spending the money on all that stuff. So I got to be like, it's got to be for something. And maybe I'll get to a point. I think there's like weird, like, I don't know if you've ever done this show. Have you done the Black Apple in Springdale,
yeah.
Arkansas? Mm-hmm. That whole region. So the last time I was there, I had this whole thing because I went with somebody I was dating, but I was also just doing these 2 shows. The one at I think it's Club 509 or something like that,
Yeah.
and the one because neither one of those shows really pay enough to justify driving 5 hours for and getting a hotel. But I have family in the area, so I would go. Family I never see, by the way. So I would do that. The last couple times, I made it a thing where I was like, well, make it like a trip you take. Make it like, and the last time I was down there, me and this lady I was dating, it was such a cool experience, but it was also like the weirdest experience. We stayed in this bed and breakfast that was like just some old fucking definitely haunted building. And they made it like the people that made it into a bed and breakfast made it into like this kind of spooky, like, ooh. And you could tell they were like, we only met the lady, but you could tell there were people who were like Wiccan or something like that. But it was cool. And it was in this little teeny tiny town that, as it turns out, was 40 minutes away from either of those gigs. So it wasn't close. But it's worth it for that experience to say, like, yeah, I had this weird experience in this weird bed and breakfast and this little itty bitty fucking town that every morning we were there, they had like this, like, just the townsfolk got together and had breakfast on this pavilion. And the townspeople would like tell us stories about the town and talk to us about it. It was a great experience to stay in this little place that probably you'd never find it. You'd never stumble across it. Like you had to like get off a highway, make this weird button hook down and go. And I thought we had a great time. And again, that was her idea, this lady I was dating, but great idea. She found the place. But I also had a different idea that was also, we were going to stay close to Eureka Springs in these like weird camping pod things. And then upon further research, and I did more research, and I was like, yeah, that's like still an hour away from this gig. Where I was like, I'm still like driving into this gig, which is...
Well, the first Comic Invasion shows I did, one of the he booked a hotel that was an old schoolhouse, and every room, it was like a B&B, but every classroom was turned into its own individual room.
Yeah, that's
so
pretty
there's
cool.
like, it was like you could stay in the first grade classroom or the second grade classroom or the third, and they were very big, spacious rooms, and there's still a chalkboard and stuff like that up there. Still probably haunted,
Yeah.
But the school was built in like 1890 or something like that, and I couldn't find it again if I tried.
Yeah.
I know that the show was in Alto Pass, Illinois, and we were like 30 minutes from there.
Yeah.
But it was a great little, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I would have never found this. But also, I did get the feeling that, like, it was going to be one of those places where when it was time to check out, they'd be like, oh, you can't leave.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's a bit spooky, but that's part of the...
Yeah.
So, but my point behind bringing up that bed and breakfast and all that shit is I probably was never... I don't know that I would ever go to, like, the Fayetteville, Rogers, whatever area of northern Arkansas without doing that show. And doing that show is sort of one of those things, like, we sort of drove around the last time I was there, and I was like, this is beautiful. It looks like... This is not real, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
why I keep the creases
It
in
was
it, so
really
that way I
beautiful.
keep people.
And now I'm kind of having that thing where it's like, okay, in terms of doing like the last time I was camping, I had a great time, and it was like tent camping. Like, like my group of friends will do like a cabin trip to my buddy's cabin, but it's air conditioned, and it's like they got Wi-Fi now. But I'm kind of thinking like I'm gonna look for places to go camping. That's the other sort of thing I want to do in October is like find a place to go camping where it's almost going to be like, fall. It'll probably look a little, Find a place to go do some solo camping and try to like, whatever. Have something going on that's a little bit like. These are just things I just don't do.
Yeah.
When I do them, I love them.
Right. But
But
don't
I
ever
would.
do it.
I'm never doing this for me. Yeah, just have shit like that I'm doing that I'm like. I don't know. And I also go somewhere weird. Stay in a weird ass hotel. Here's where I'm at. And we're getting ready to do some gigs on the road together. Like, I don't want to stay somewhere that's not haunted. Eric, I want to be afraid to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, Eric. I want to go someplace spooky. I'm
Yeah.
not over fucking Radisson, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. I do enjoy when I travel. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I'm with my kids. I'm like, hey, what do you guys want to eat? And they're just like,
I'd love it if you just edited
period.
that clip right there. It's
That's
like,
where the
man, one of my
podcast is-
biggest pet peeves about traveling is with my kids.
yeah. One of my biggest pet peeves is.
All right,
having
we'll
a
see you on the
family.
next one, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
No, I always ask them like, hey, where do you guys want to eat? And they're like, McDonald's, and I'm like, no, we are in a new
Yeah.
place. We're trying something new.
There is something to be said for the consistency of an Olive Garden
And I
or a
understand
Fridays
that.
or whatever. I get it. And there is also that, like, if you're on the, I've had this experience being like, no, I want to eat at like the mom and pop place. I want to eat it like, hey, where do you guys get your vittles around here? And then I've had great experiences eating in those places, and I have had horrid experiences where I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is dog shit. It's just the only place to get breakfast in this town.
But it
And these
makes
people
a
are
good
like-
story.
And they're like, oh, you got to go to this
Oh.
place and eat the breakfast. Oh, the breakfast's so good. And you're like, this is canned gravy.
You've never been to McGuffin's? Oh, you
Right.
gotta go. Have you ever had the candied ham or whatever?
That's
You're
like,
no?
I've eaten at those places where I'm like, if an international house of pancakes opened up within 10 miles, this place would not exist.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's a chain place, it's whatever, but it's also like,
Consistency. There is something to be said about consistency. That like, I know if I go to Burger King, it's gonna be pretty much the same. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know about this diner on Route 6.
yeah.
Route Q or whatever. You're like, ah. Well, all right. Let me get into some questions real quick. The whole idea of the podcast is anytime anybody tells you something's the best, it's just their opinion. There's no way to prove it, right or wrong, yes or no, whatever. So I like to ask people a couple questions and find out your personal preferences. Let me skip past some of these. Best hot dog topping.
I'm the Chicago
Okay.
hot dog
You're
fucking stinks.
okay.
I hate it, and it makes me not want to go to Chicago.
I couldn't agree
Sweet
more.
relish is fucking gross.
It's gross.
so gross.
The pickle spear is too much.
I could be fine. It's the whole spear. That is the problem.
That's-
The whole spear is it's a bit much, but I love pickles. Man, I just go old school. Like I'll do a good quality hot dog. Got to be made by God's chosen.
Yeah.
That's for starters.
Yeah.
Got a little have a little snap to the casing, and I can just do like hot mustard or like spicy brown mustard and ketchup. I can
Yeah.
do it like that. I can do,
There's
but
some
if we're talking gas station, I'm gonna put everything on it. It's gonna be onions, chili, cheese.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
gonna be everything to mask the fact that it's a gas station hot dog.
Yeah. This is a hoof. This
Yeah.
is or something worse.
If I'm gonna have diarrhea, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
all of the diarrhea.
I'm not a hot dog person. The only time I will eat a hot dog is if I go to a baseball game, just because I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it's part
It
of the
feels-
culture. It's part of the
Yeah.
event. Dude, have you got so this is also I'm assuming the reach of this is not so global that most of the listeners aren't going to be recognize Steve's Hot Dogs. Steve's Hot Dogs in St. Louis is
Yeah.
like I don't know how you it's a gourmet type hot dog type place.
Yeah.
But it's also that's a place where I'll just order something off the menu, go on the adventure,
Yeah.
and be like I like, I was raised in the burbs. I like to eat Ketchup and mustard on
Yeah.
my hot dogs. Just go random order something off the menu. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. And
It's
you're
good.
going on a little adventure. Now you like a different topping on a hot dog.
Yeah, that's what I do with that's like we said with pizza. I'll just be like, you know what? I've never had black olives and jalapenos, so I'm gonna throw those in there. You know, and we'll
Sometimes
see
you'll
what-
go and find a weird flavor combo that you didn't know you loved. I used to cook for a living, and that kind of helped sometimes.
Yeah.
The sweet and savory thing for me is so.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite things.
that's one of the questions: is what's the best flavor combination?
Oh. Is that the next one? Should
well,
I
no,
answer
just-
that one now?
You
or-
can do- yeah, whatever you want.
So
I really enjoy sweet and spicy together. So I'm a big fan of like pineapple with jalapeno. So it's like a little bit of both. I enjoy that.
I don't like spicy or sweet or none of that shit when it's like you can tell when somebody's there's no subtlety to it. Like there's this it was kind of like it's like a street taco place I ate, and I had their fish taco and it had a mango habanero
Okay.
salsa, and I was like, first of all, in terms of like mango habanero salsa is just popping up on menus all over the fucking place. And I've had it, and it had been like, this is amazing. This is delicious. Hitting the spot. These people just had like, it was too sweet and too spicy. To the point where I was like,
okay.
I'm on fire right now. And it's like, it was just so sweet. Which means you're doing shit that you don't need to do to it. The best salsas, the best like, mango, habanero, whatever, classic salsa. The best salsas I've ever had were basically like, this is the ingredients chopped up.
Yeah.
That's
what
the
it
best.
should be. Speaking of like overdoing it and like going wild and stuff like that, that's how I feel about pineapple on pizza.
My problem with pineapple on pizza is that it's if you're going like grill it or something.
Yeah.
Do something to it, because if you just take like canned pineapple and put it on the pizza, you're gonna make the cheese watery.
Yeah.
It releases like whatever its water is. So now you got like weird wet cheese.
I've always
Gross.
said I've always said that improv is a lot like improv comedy is a lot like pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
Like it can be
great.
done right.
It can be great.
But there's a lot of bad imitations out there.
It also is. I don't like the combination of pineapple and ham. Like if you're doing like the traditional Hawaiian pizza which is like pineapple, ham,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like ham is salty enough, and the pineapple is sweet enough and tart enough where I think it works pretty good. But I've had people. I had somebody add like a pineapple to like a pepperoni pizza, and I was like,
Yeah.
it just didn't. The flavors didn't gel.
There's a reason
is
why
like-
they picked this.
There's a cheap way to do it. I think that's a good way to do it. Like there's a way to do it with like a light touch or like artfully.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it. There's a way to do things artfully. Even like we just got done talking about Steve's hot dogs. It's a hot dog.
Yeah.
But it's a good quality hot dog. It's good quality bread. The toppings, you can tell it's like thought out, where they're actually putting some thought into how this is going to finish
Yeah.
in your mouth.
Yeah, right. They put thought into it. They're not just throwing.
Right. They're not just like, here's canned pineapple on pizza, and that's our Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah.
It's got ham and pineapple.
Enjoy. Yeah. Yeah. I know. It has to be done right. It has
Yes.
to be done.
Well executed. Done artfully.
Oh. What's the best way to kill time in a new like city? Like if you're traveling or doing stuff. We hit on this a little bit with the haunted houses and things, but
It depends on what we're going to have this because we're going to be in strange towns to do something for an hour
yeah.
or an hour and a half. Like we're going to go do these gigs, and that's going to account for 2 to 3 hours of our day.
Yeah.
So
Of
we're
the
going to have
48 hours that will be.
and I've done this a little bit where it's like, find somewhere to eat breakfast, like have a nice breakfast somewhere.
yeah.
Like eat all your meals and eat somewhere local. Try to eat somewhere like that. If they have some goofball museum, go to a museum. if they have like whatever their local attraction is, which sometimes if it's like not a big city or it's a small town, it might be shitty. Visit their resale shops and their thrift shops because
That's a
gives you-
great one.
that gives you a little bit of like a taste for what it's like in that town. Oh, by the way, all like resale shops and all that shit. Like,
Yeah.
every once in a blue moon, you find something kind of cool, but mostly it's shit.
One of my favorite
And it's
things.
dead people's shit.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that I've ever done before I show, just to kill time, was me and Nick Kuvar. Shout out Blind Nick. For those that don't know, he is fully blind. We went to an antique store.
He's texted me before. It's
Yeah.
not,
I did see him reach for a bottle the other night and get it on the first try, and I was like, "How
think it's-
blind are you?"
it might be a put on. It might be a put on.
It might be an
I don't
act.
know. I met Yakov Smirnov. That guy's actually Russian.
Yeah.
I thought the whole thing was an act.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I went to an antique store with Nick, and I would just hand him a random item and be like, "Tell me what do you think this is?" And he would feel it, and he'd be like, "I think it's a bear holding an umbrella," like that. And I'd be
Did
like,
you
"Close."
have like a?
It's a
That's also weird. Like from a distance, it probably looked like, "Here, Nick, you're psychic. Touch this dead person's item
yeah.
and tell me about the owner."
yeah, which is funny.
He died violently.
Yeah, there is. Have you ever been into an antique store though and taken you walk around and you're like, there's something about this item in particular, just getting a bad feeling from. Like I don't know, there's something about this doll has seen a murder, or
I just assume that most of the items in there have got like there's a thrift store or a secondhand store or whatever in Columbia, Missouri. The last time I was there, visiting my kid, we went to this resale shop, and I walked around this place going like, I don't think you mean to sell anything here.
yeah,
Like this shit's been here a while.
yeah,
And I wound up buying something. I wound up buying a sweater that I was like, I'm gonna clean it real good.
yeah,
But it was also just like I tried it. It's fine. It's a nice like house sweater. It's one of those like it's got like a high like collar. It'd be a good like I don't know if I was gonna move to Vermont type
okay,
sweater.
yeah.
But yeah, it's also everything in there. I was like, when was the last? I was so curious. Like, how much money can this place possibly generate? This place must be like it must not old money, but it must be like that. You must have. This must be something in this building that the owner like paid for it in 1960, and it's just like it's paid for.
Yeah.
There's no overhead. That's the only way I could justify this business existing, and I'm so curious as what their taxes look like. It's a write-off somehow, some way, and the owner was, I hate to put the guy on blast, an odd bird,
yeah.
an
Oh, yeah.
odd bird.
Oh yeah, Comic Invasion. We're doing those shows when we
We're
filmed.
about to hit up. I'm about to see what Murray, Kentucky has to offer in the terms of dead people's goods.
when we were filming that episode, it was Mary Jane and I and Jeff, and we went to Makanda, Illinois. Sorry, Makanda. That's how it was pronounced. Anyway, there was a thrift store that was like, I'm pretty sure this is just someone's junk. Like they just one day just filled this building full of boxes and then cleared a path through it and then put a register by the door, and you would bring up things and be like, how much is this? And they'd be like, $3. They just kind of look it over and like,
That's what every garage sale or rummage sale is. Every garage sale should be done in front of a roll-off dumpster.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
Exactly.
what I need. I need to do that in my basement, by the way. Except without the garage sale, I just need to clean my basement.
I can't.
Terrible.
My in-laws are into the art of the garage sale. They love it. They will travel. They will do all kinds. They like to bargain.
Dude,
they like
estate
to,
sales, garage. Sometimes you can find good shit. I've had
yeah.
my grandpa Al. He's a retired drywall hanger, so he's a tradesman as well. His thing used to be go to estate sales and try to find antique tools. And he loved to call me up and have me come out and check out these tools. And he'd be like, Bud, what'd you think this is for? Mm-hmm. What do you think this is? And sometimes he was genuinely asking me, like, what is this for? And we had to research and find out. Like, and we found some cool shit.
Yeah.
And if it turns out it was a flooring tool, he always gave it to me. So I've got like an antique carpet stretcher. Sounds dirtier than it is, I know. But an antique carpet stretcher, I think I've got 2 of them in my basement. And yeah, those are all like weird estate sale, resale shop finds. They're always loaded with tools. Because think about it, like if I died, somebody would go through my basement to resell all my shit. It'd be a shitload of tools.
Yeah.
And now if I'm 90 and that happens, it's going to be antique tools.
Yeah.
It's going to be old-ass tools.
I was expecting it to be like, actually, this is for hamstringing a horse, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like something nobody does anymore. And you're like,
if they're old enough tools, it does look like torture shit.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like some real, not even like kinky S&M shit.
Like
No.
proper torture. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you're like a woman in the 1700s, and you looked at a man, and this is God's price. You got to pay God's price.
Yeah, now you have
for
to pay
being
the
a woman
tax.
with eyes right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this will teach you to gaze.
You understand, right?
Yeah,
if you
you know what you did, right?
If you want to get into heaven, we have to torture you. So,
but we have to take.
This
one
is
of
for your soul
nostrils
as much as it is
Yeah.
for us.